Hello there everypony and welcome back to PAGIE Time, the series where you pick the topics and I talk about them. 2 weeks ago I talked all about how to create the best characters for your web series, and you guys also had a lot to add, so here are a few of my favorite comments. In the next episode I will be showing you my tips and tricks for organizing your My Little Pony and Littlest Pet Shop toys. So if you have any tips, then comment them down below. Anyways, if you're watching this video, then that means that you want to figure out if you have a mental disorder. Or heck, maybe you're just watching it for fun, but either way, this video is going to be interesting and informational. Let's start off with some background information. Most of you probably already know this, but if you don't, I'm just going to come out and say that I have depression, anxiety, as well as some Asperger's syndrome. These are all mental disorders or conditions that sometimes make my life a bit more difficult. But how did I figure it out that I had these mental conditions? Well, I've always been a shy kid. It wasn't that bad, like I had trouble making friends and speaking, but it was never really a big problem until the 5th grade. After I was bullied in the 5th grade, everything just got way harder for me, and from the 6th grade forward, socializing and things like that just got really difficult. Even though I've had these conditions my entire life, they only really started to get to the point where I couldn't manage them after the bullying. But I never really figured out that it was an actual disorder until about a year ago. That was when school started getting really stressful, and coincidentally the same year that I got into feminism. Through feminism, I was able to learn about all these conditions that I've never heard about, and I realized that they did sort of relate to me. So I did a bunch of research and I stressed a whole lot, but eventually I figured out that I probably did have anxiety. You can probably get to this stage really easily. If you look up any disorder or anything, you're going to find a bunch of information on symptoms, but what you need to stay away from is taking those online quizzes. Even when a quiz is made by a psychologist, they don't know you personally and they aren't able to decide for themselves if you actually have a disability or disorder. Just stay away from quizzes. So how else will you figure out if you actually have a disorder? Well, you have to get a diagnosis. Once you've been diagnosed by a psychiatrist, they can figure out what's best for you, whether it's medicine or therapy or both. But probably the hardest thing was telling my parents that I might need help. I was constantly worrying that they might not believe me or just think that I was saying that I have a disorder for attention. But then one day we were talking about how my friend has anxiety and sees a therapist for it. And I was able to use her to tell my mom about how I have similar symptoms and maybe we should get that checked out. So as of now, I am giving you all permission to use me as an excuse to get your parents to notice your anxiety or any other disorder that you think you might have. You can just bring it up in conversation. Hi, I know someone that has anxiety and they have a lot of the same symptoms as me, so maybe just to make sure we could get it checked out. And if they think you're doing it for attention, like my parents did for a little bit, then encourage them to do research with you. If you absolutely can't get your parents to listen to you, and maybe they don't have enough money to afford to see a psychiatrist, then I'm pretty sure you can look up an online psychiatrist. In fact, I just did a quick internet search and I was able to find a website called Breakthrough. But you can do your own research and find a psychiatrist that works for you. There are also apps that offer chat rooms for people with similar disorders to talk about what they're going through together. And hey, you can even comment down below on this video and maybe someone else with a similar disorder will see it and you guys can chat together privately. About a year ago, I was at a period of my life where I was thinking every night, what if I don't actually have an anxiety and I'm just thinking about this all for attention? Just as a word of advice, if you're thinking about something so much that it's gotten to the point where you can't stop thinking about it and like you're just panicking about it, then most of the time, not all of the time, but usually it's going to be true. And this can go for anything, whether you're questioning your sexuality, your gender, and anything like that. And hey, even if it turns out that you don't have anxiety or you don't have OCD or anything like that, if you do still have a problem similar to that, then you can still try and work to improve that. So really, the best advice that I can give you is to do your research. Don't jump to conclusions like, oh, I like all my pencils in order, I must have OCD, or oh, I felt sad yesterday for no reason, I'm depressed. There is this trend on social media that apparently makes it cool to have a mental disorder. It's not something pretty and it's not something to be glorified. Please don't ever think that a mental disorder is something cool and trendy. It's not. And if you don't have a mental disorder or anything like that, you can help people who have mental disorders. Be sure to check out my episode of PAGIE Time where I give advice for those who have friends with mental disorders. And just make sure not to be one of those people who glorify disorders and conditions. But in case I missed anything, here's a few comments from the last episode. I hope this episode has helped you because I really don't want anyone to be in the position that I was when I was questioning about how to tell my parents that I might have a mental disorder. And don't forget to comment your tips for organizing your MLPs and LPS, and I'll see you in another episode. Bye!